Hi guys, my name is Izzy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do my makeup and tell you guys a lovely tale. So, alright, let's get started. So, the day before New Year's Eve 2012, I was at my mom's house with my boyfriend at the time, and my mom wasn't home. We were just kind of bored and hungry. So I called my dad and I'm like, hey dad, what's up? Mom's not home. Come get me. Right? So he does, and he drops me off at his house. So unbeknownst to me at the time, this absolutely pissed my dad off that it was almost New Year's Eve, or almost New Year's, and that my mom was not home. Now granted, I was old enough to be home. It's not like this is a child neglect story, but it just pissed him off. He did not like it whatsoever. So after he drops me off at home, he goes to go find out where the hell she's at. So one way or another, he figures out that my mom is at kind of like a mutual friend, if you want to call that a friend. I'll use this term loosely. A mutual friend's house, right? So he goes there and he sees the guy outside. Now, his nickname was Mustang. You'll figure out why later. Anyway, so he says, hey, dude, my wife's in there. My daughter's looking for her. Can you tell her to come outside? And he refuses to do this, right? And this, again, pisses my dad all the way off. So a Mustang drove a Mustang. That's what he was known for. That's how he got his nickname. And somehow, that night, Mustang's Mustang windows got bashed out of his car. And on top of that, he got a text from my dad saying it's going to be a cold ride home. So you can make of that what you will. So fast forward to the next night. It is now New Year's Eve. We're at my dad's house and we're having ourselves a little get together, having a little party. Little 2012 me is drinking Smirnoff Ices and having a grand old time. But everyone's acting kind of weird, I noticed. Like, people seem tense. They're whispering. One guy brought a freaking shotgun. And so I'm kind of wondering what the hell is going on. Like, why are they bringing my dad a gun? Why is everyone whispering? And eventually, one of my dad's friends comes up to me and he's like, hey, if bullets start flying tonight, just get on the ground, okay? Just get on the ground and stay there until it's safe. So obviously, those are some anxiety-inducing directions. So I'm like, what do you mean if bullets start flying? What the heck is going on? So I go to my dad's girlfriend, we'll call her Kate, and I'm like, Kate, will you please tell me what's going on? This guy just said that the house might get shot up tonight. Like, is this a joke? And so Kate's rendition of the story is that your dad upset some bad men and he didn't do anything, but they're probably going to retaliate against him, and that's probably going to be in the form of shooting up the house. Great. Thanks. That made me feel so much better. Lovely. So, some of you might be wondering, if you guys think the house is about to get shot up, why are you having a New Year's party? And you know what? That is a wonderful question that I do not have the answer to. I guess the people there were just brave or dumb. Like, I understand why the guy came with a gun. That was like to provide self-defense for us. I get that because we didn't have guns. But like, you're just going to party at a house that you think bullets might be flying into? But I don't know. Like, after that, I didn't want to be there, and I live there. I wouldn't go to a house that has that, ugh. Anyway. So, a few hours later, everyone pretty much went home. It's just me, Kate, my dad, my boyfriend, and my grandfather at the house at this point. And I'm all drunk, and I'm laying in bed, and, I'm a little stressed out about, the house might get shot up, but I'm just thinking, you know what? Everyone's probably overreacting. Nothing's probably going to happen. We're safe. You know what I mean? We're safe. And my boyfriend looks at me right before I doze off, and he says, you know what? I don't think they're going to shoot the house up. I think they're gonna light it on fire. And at that, I went to sleep. But alas, I sure did not sleep for long, because next thing I know, I hear Kate running through the bedrooms in the house screaming, "Oh my God, it's a bomb! Oh my God, it's a bomb!" Just running throughout the entire house. And then you can hear my dad in the other room saying, "Shut up, Kate! There's no bomb! Go back to sleep!" And just freaking out. So obviously I get the hell up because I want to know if there is a bomb in my house. And my dad gets up too because Kate won't shut the hell up. And she says that she heard a noise, something hit the house, and then she looked out and the yard was on fire. Where exactly she got bomb from that description, I can't really tell you. So, you know, we look out the window into the front yard and the lawn's on fire, but like, no big deal. We can put that out, right? Like, what's the big deal about? But we are a little bit scared because it's like, what if this is just like phase 1 of some master plan these guys have? You know what I mean? But my dad goes outside and he puts the fire out in the lawn. And I'm still wide awake now because of all the bomb screaming, right? But we had a black lab at the time, right? And the dog is just going crazy. She keeps looking up like at the ceiling and barking. And after a while, I start to like listen closely and I hear this crackling sound, like when you have like logs in the fireplace, you know, that kind of sound. And so I walk outside and I look up and the roof is just ablaze. The attic is full of fire. There's a hole in the roof where it is caved in. And like, I was just in there for 10 minutes with the house on fire. My family is in there right now. So I run inside and I'm like, Dad, it wasn't just the yard. The house is on fire. It's starting to cave in. We need to get out right now. So, and side note, this is just another thing I find funny, is one of those questions that people ask all the time is, if your house is on fire and you can only grab one thing, what would you grab? And the answer is only the living things. When your house is on fire, you're not thinking about, oh, I need to grab my favorite sweater. I need to grab my laptop. Oh my God. You're thinking, let me get my family out of here and my pets so pieces of hot ceiling debris do not land on me and burn me. Anyway, so I go in the house and the first thing I do is I go to my grandpa and I'm like, hey, Grandpa, the house is on fire. We need to get out. And he just stared at me for like the first 5 times I said it. Like it wasn't registering. He just thought I was joking with him or something. And I'm getting stressed out. I'm like, dude, we have to get out. There's no time for you to sit here and contemplate if I'm pranking you or not. Get up. So eventually he does. And I get my dog, I get my cat, and we go and sit in the front yard and watch everything we own get ruined. Yay! So my dad calls the fire department, obviously, and at this point, the whole neighborhood is looking out their doors, watching our house burn down. No one comes to help. No, not at all. But everyone's looking through their little glass windows on their doors, just wanting to know what's going on. Can't bring us a bucket of water or a hose. That would be too much of a friendly thing to do, right? No, honestly, a hose probably wouldn't have helped, but it was still like annoying. Like, can you guys please stop? So eventually we see the firemen coming down the road, and it's like a well-known thing, right? That they have to stop at a fire hydrant to get water to put your house out. And there was no fire hydrant in front of our house, so they had to stop up the street. But my dad thinks they're stopping at the wrong house. So he's running up the road and he's screaming. He's like, what the hell are you doing? You can't see the big fire? You're at the wrong house. And he's running up the road. It was a mess. But they finally get to the house and they have the fire hydrant secured. And now they are putting our house out. So firefighters are like brave people in general, right? Like I do not envy them for their job. But this one firefighter was sitting on top of our roof, spraying the hose from above and the roof is like caving in around him to the point where he could probably also cave in and land in this big fiery pit. I would not want that job. Like, kudos to that guy. I could not do that. So while we're sitting out there, these two girls that I'm assuming lived in the neighborhood but that I've never seen before came up to me and my boyfriend, but they were like, hey, we have a blunt for you guys. I figured you'd want to burn one while your house burns down. And so, like, I don't know, I don't smoke weed now, but like, thanks guys for thinking of us and not just staring out your window as our lives turn to crap. So after the house is put out, someone from the Red Cross comes and they gave me a little tiny Mickey Mouse stuffed animal. They gave my family a $150 gift card to buy like food and certain supplies, and they put us up in a hotel for 3 days, which honestly, like, thank you Red Cross so much, because I don't know where we would have stayed if it weren't for that. Such a wonderful organization for that. But while we are being put up in this hotel, keep in mind, it is January, very cold outside where I live at this time of year, and so our pipes burst. We have a house that is mostly burned up, and now the pipes freeze. When they freeze, a lot of times they burst. The parts of the house that weren't already damaged have now been flooded. So the insurance company considered the house a total loss at this point, which basically means you get the worth of the house back to either, rebuild it or to buy a new house. But that also means that now the home is condemned. You cannot live in it. It is illegal. Doesn't matter that you own it. You will be considered trespassing at this point. So that means that after our 3 days ran up at the hotel, we now had nowhere to go. And we spent many a freezing night staying in our condemned house, sneaking in so no one could see us go into our own home with no electricity, no heat. Sometimes we had a generator, but it took gas. So most of the time we just huddled up in the cold with a giant tarp over the roof, if you can call it that at this point. And we pretty much did that until a family friend let us stay in their mother's home because their mother had just recently gone to a nursing home. And that was like so far away from everything. We didn't have a car. I remember frequently walking 3 hours to get to the nearest like convenience store so we could get cigarettes for my dad and food. It sucked, but hey, better than staying in a freezing cold, half burnt down home, right? So at this point, you very well may be wondering, but Izzy, what started the fire? Why did Kate think it was a bomb? Well, what happened was that Mustang threw what is called a Molotov cocktail onto our roof. So for the viewers out there that do not know what a Molotov cocktail is, I will tell you. So basically, a Molotov cocktail consists of a bottle, which is filled with some sort of flammable liquid. It can be alcohol, gasoline, whatever. And then they add a rag or something of that nature. They light the rag on fire. They throw the bottle, and it basically explodes and starts a fire. Now, it was actually good that they hit the roof and not the large bay window, which is what they assumed they were actually aiming for, because it would have spread much faster if it went through the window, and we could have very well been trapped in the home, which is likely what these jerks were going for. So thank God that that didn't happen. So clearly it was ruled as an arson, right? That's kind of obvious. But they couldn't find any fingerprints on the bottle, which they did find. It was broken, obviously, but they did find the pieces of it. And I'm pretty sure the cops knew, what was going on, because not only were they investigating what happened at my house, the arson, but they were also investigating Mustang's windows being broken out of his car. So I'm pretty sure they were able to put 2 and 2 together and figure out what went on there. However, as they were investigating my dad for busting out the windows, obviously was the suspect, as he texted him saying it's going to be a cold ride home, but there was actually surveillance footage of his windows getting bashed out. The person in the footage was wearing all black and had their face covered, so they couldn't be ID'd that way. But the person on the footage was very, very short. So the detectives believed that he was way too short to have been my dad. And I guess because my dad never went to jail for breaking this guy's windows out, that was enough evidence to say that my dad was not guilty of this, right? And the funny thing is that when my dad was alive, he would always say that he loved the sound of breaking glass. Like, if he was mad at you, that's probably what he was gonna do. I mean, he even broke my mom's windows out one time. I mean, he was kind of a badass in his day, or a troublemaker, or an asshole, I guess, depending on who you ask. But, unfortunately, Mustang did not get in any trouble either, which was basically because they could not find any fingerprints, and even though the cops even told us that they believed that was who did it, they couldn't, put him at the scene of the crime, basically. So nothing ever happened to Mustang in that regard. And now, we did run into Mustang again a few years after this happened, and my dad basically tried to run him over in a parking lot, and I had to scream at him and tell him, if you run this guy over, you're going to jail, to get him to stop. I mean, I understand why my dad was mad. This guy literally lit your house on fire with you and your daughter in the house, and your father. I mean, obviously that's a serious offense. Anyway, and then a couple years after that, Mustang called my mom, and he was like, hey, does your daughter want to take kickboxing classes? I teach them, and I'll teach her for free. Like I would want to take kickboxing classes from the guy that burned my house down. But you know what? In the long run, the house that we ended up building or rebuilding ended up being so much nicer than the house originally was. So in the end, after, months of sleeping in an abandoned home and living in this house so far away from everything with no car and the actual, being in a burning house, after all of that wonderful stuff, it actually ended out so well. I loved my new room. It was huge, or way bigger than it used to be. So you know what? Thank you, Mustang, for burning my house down. We really appreciate that. All right, and that is the lovely tale of how my house got burned down with me and my whole family in it. Do you have any similar stories? Have you ever been in a house fire? Maybe you burned a house down for someone bashing the windows out of your nice car. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video and would like to see more content like this, or maybe you would just like to see more of me, please do not forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you next week. Bye.